Isn't that why Abilene was blocked off? To hush up the fact that the Prince of Wales' eldest son had been there as well?
Look, what if he had? This is an inquiry into Jack the Ripper.
I haven't forgotten.
So what's your story?
It starts in Cleveland Street. It leads to Whitechapel. And it is told by someone who is alive and well and living in London, Joseph Sickert. It's a very odd story, and it's a story that's never been told before.
My name is Joseph Sickert. My father was the painter, Walter Sickert. When I was a small boy, I can remember my mother telling me over and over again that I had to be very careful not to say anything or do anything which would give the police or the authorities any reasons to question me or any excuse for them to take me away. She said to me that my grandmother had suffered terribly at the hands of the authorities, and that a servant girl died in a terrible way, and that I had to be very careful. I just thought it was another story that adults told. I sort of thought, if you don't behave, the bogeyman will get you. Then, when I was a bit older, in my teens, I asked my father about the story. I kept on nagging him and asking questions about it, and eventually I broke his reserves down. He said, your grandfather was the Duke of Clarence. I laughed, and he said, it's no laughing matter. It's all a bit of a mess, because you're all bloody Catholics. Then he told me the whole story. When Eddie, the Duke of Clarence, was 20, his mother thought it would be a good idea if he met an artist and writers, as well as just usual people who made up court circles at the time. To meet the painter, Walter, she arranged, for him to meet the painter, Walter Sickert, whose family had been painters to the own royal court in Denmark. At that time, Walter Sickert lived in Cleveland Street area. When Prince Edward went there during his vacations from Cambridge, he was passed off as Sickert's younger brother, as known as Mr. S. He also met a close friend of Sickert's, a girl called Anne Elizabeth Crook, who worked in the tobacco shop at number 20. She actually lived at number 6 Cleveland Street. She was very beautiful, and in fact, she looked very much like Eddie's mother. Eddie fell in love with her. She became pregnant, and there was also a wedding ceremony at St. Saviour's private chapel in 1888. The two lovers, Clarence and Anne Elizabeth, were parted after a police raid on a party in Cleveland Street, and Anne Elizabeth was in Guy's Hospital for 156 days before she had been put into a small hospital at 367 Fulham Road. She was supposed to be mentally ill. She was kept in the Fulham Road Hospital until her death in 1921. The servant girl also disappeared at the same time. Her name was Mary Kelly. The little girl, Alice Margaret, was then looked after by old Walter Sickert with the help of various local friends. Now, one day, when she was about 7 years old, in 1892, a woman friend was taking her for a walk in Drury Lane. A carriage ran the child down. The driver of the carriage was recognised as John Netley, a man who had been used as an outside coachman by Clarence on his visits to Sickert. A man who knew the story of the lovers and their child, and their Irish servant girl, Mary Kelly. The child, Alice Margaret, was fortunate. After a spell in Charing Cross Hospital, she recovered from her injuries. Mary Kelly was not so lucky. She was, of course, a Catholic girl. She was known to the nuns of the convent in nearby Harewood Place. She went first of all to their sister convent, which was in the East End. What happened then was that various people high in the government and the royal household became very worried indeed about the possibility of the news getting out that the heir presumptive to the throne of England had married and had a child, and that the child had been born of a Catholic mother. You have to remember it was a time when the possibility of revolution was thought to be a very real one, and that the problems and violence surrounding Ireland were at their height. It was decided that Mary Jane Kelly would have to be silenced. The operation was undertaken by the driver, John Netley, and the royal physician, Sir William Gull. To conceal the dangerous motive behind Mary Kelly's death and the inquiries they were making for her, she was killed as the last of 5 women in a way that made it look like the random work of a madman. The child, however, survived. She was protected by Walter Sickert and had 2 sons by him. The first one was Charles, who disappeared at the age of 2, and I am the other son.
Well, that's quite a story. Do you believe it?
Joseph Sickert believes it.
Ah, yes, but what Mr. Sickert believes isn't evidence. Where's his proof?
There is some circumstantial evidence. This girl that Clarence is said to have married and had a daughter by, Anne Elizabeth Crook, she's said to have lived at number 6 Cleveland Street. So I went back through the records. The rate book for Cleveland Street, 1888. Number 6, basement. Recorded as paying the rates, Elizabeth Cook.
Oh, Crook, near enough. What about a marriage certificate?
No record of that. But after a long time looking through Somerset House, I found something else. A birth certificate, dated April the 18th, 1885. A girl, Alice Margaret, place of birth, Marylebone Workhouse, name of mother, Annie Elizabeth Crook, confectionery assistant from Cleveland Street.
Name of father, blank.
So is his occupation. Then there's a cross, with alongside it the mark of Annie Elizabeth Crook, 6 Cleveland Street, Fitzroy Square.
Well, that supports Sickert's story.
Sickert also claims to have seen a christening certificate for the child. And on it, as one of the people present, the name Mary Jane Kelly.
Hey, now, that is evidence. Where is it?
Like so many of the vital pieces of paper in the Ripper saga, it's missing.
If it ever existed.
Well, there was an Elizabeth Crook who lived at 6 Cleveland Street. And she did work in a confectionery shop. And she did have a child, a girl, Alice Margaret, in 1885. Now, Sickert has a painting of his mother done by Sir William Orpen. And the name above it, Alice Crook Sickert.
So Cleveland Street, Elizabeth Crook, and maybe Mary Jane Kelly. But how does this lead to Whitechapel?
Sickert says Mary Kelly went to a convent in the East End. Now, in Whitechapel, there's a convent in Providence Row, Dorset Street, just 50 yards from Miller's Court, where Mary Kelly was killed. Now, one of the founders of that convent was a Cleveland Street solicitor, Edmund Bellord, who was a friend and sort of father figure to the artistic community there.
Right, so you have some proof that Elizabeth Crook lived there. You have proof that she had a child there. Mary Jane Kelly could well have gone to Dorset Street from there. But you've got a long way to go from birth and marriage to murder.
Sickert named 2 names. A coachman called Netley, who presumably did the strong-arm stuff, and the royal physician, Sir William Gull, who deliberately made the killings look like those of a madman. So I started looking for a man called Netley, a driver, and I found one. Born May 1860, and John Netley became a driver. On September the 26th, 1903, he was killed when the van he was driving went over a stone. He fell and was kicked on the head by one of the horses. The report of his death in the Marylebone Mercury.
But nothing to connect him with the murders?
No, nothing at all. Just the fact that Sickert was told that a man called Netley was involved and he was a driver. Now, a man called John Netley did exist, and he was about the right age, and he was a driver.
A link may be.
But the second name that Sickert gives is Sir William Gull. Now, there's no problem proving that he existed. Medical Register, 1888. Sir William Gull, MD, FRCP, FRS, physician to Guy's Hospital, physician in ordinary to Her Majesty Queen Victoria, to His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, and doctor to half London society.
Big shot.
But his name had been linked with the Ripper murders, and not only by Sickert, but by someone who, as far as I know, had never heard the Sickert story. By the man who pointed the finger at Clarence in the first place, Dr. Thomas Stowell. Now, he had that story about the famous Victorian medium, Lees, who, in a dream, saw the Ripper going into a large house in the West End. And on coming out of his trance, he trotted along with the police behind him, straight to the house of a famous West End physician.
This is all hearsay. Third-hand hearsay at that.
But Stowell added something himself. Stowell said that Sir William had been seen more than once around and about Whitechapel on the night that a murder was committed.
Does he have evidence of that?
We'll never know. Stowell died very soon after he published his theory, and his son destroyed all his papers.
So another line of inquiry ending up in a brick wall and a question mark.
Well, there's no proof, I agree, but there are coincidences. Sickert was told by his father that the doctor involved was Sir William Gull, and Stowell quite independently said that the doctor involved was Sir William Gull. And there was a popular theory at the time that the Ripper was a surgeon, for obvious reasons, handy with a knife.
Yeah, but Gull was a physician and not a surgeon.
Ah, yes. But there is another coincidence. It all ties in with that strange tale from America.
Oh, London clubman now in Chicago.
That's right. And quoting a certain Dr. Howard.
The story Dr. Howard has told is substantially correct, as indeed it should be, since Dr. Howard was one of a dozen London physicians who sat at a court of medical inquiry or as a commission in lunacy on one of their brother physicians. But it was definitely proved that the dreadful Jack the Ripper was no less a person than a physician in high standing, a man enjoying the patronage of the best society in the West End of London.
Again, a physician, not a surgeon, as you'd expect if it was some polished-up piece of gossip. But one more coincidence. According to the medical register for 1888, there was a Dr. Howard, and he did spend some time in the States around that time. And you remember Sickert had said that his grandmother, after her marriage to Clarence had been discovered, was tucked away in a hospital in Fulham? Well, Dr. Howard had an address at the St. George's Club in Hanover Square, and that club ran a charity hospital at number 367 Fulham Road. The address where Sickert says his grandmother died. And here is her death certificate.
Sir, you got a picture of him?
Who, Dr. Howard?
Sir William Gull. Let's add him to the gallery. Looks a bit more prepossessing than the others.
He was. He's a self-made man. Cured the Prince of Wales of typhoid and never looked back. He left £340,000.
Can you really see a man like Sir William Gull going down the East End and playing his part in the murder of 5 women?
You and I have arrested some more unlikely murderers in our time.
It's not the answer, and you know it.
It was the answer for Jack the Ripper. Because as long as he was a madman without a face, he was real enough. But when you try to put a human face to him, the whole thing becomes grotesque.
It was grotesque. And it happened. And there are 5 women dead to prove it. Killed, according to you, because a royal prince had sired a child.
An illegitimate child with an illiterate shop girl as a mother and a Catholic.
But really important.
You want to bet? In 1890, Duke of Clarence, our Eddie, wanted to marry a Catholic. At his time of royal blood, Princess Helene d'Orleans, daughter of the Comte de Paris.
Did he?
Not likely. According to Sir Philip Magnus Allcroft, the Prime Minister, Lord Salisbury, warned that the anger of the middle and lower classes might endanger the throne if it became known that he had even entertained the thought.
So the throne would certainly have been endangered if the first story had come out. Sir William Gull is the killer.
Well, Sir William had had some sort of a stroke, and he was an elderly man. And he was a Mason. And he must have known that he hadn't got long to live. One last service for the prince whose life he had saved and whose doctor he'd been for nearly 20 years.
Some sort of motive, I suppose. But no hard evidence to connect Gull with the killings.
No hard evidence to connect anyone.
Just suspicions.
And a lot of suspects. We haven't even covered half of them. They range from an escaped guerrilla to King Leopold of the Belgians.
Oh, you didn't check on that one.
Oh, I did. Yes, I wrote to the Belgian Royal Archivist, checking dates, and I got a reply too. Dear sir, I have read, not without some astonishment, your letter, of which I could not, at first sight, decide whether it proceeds from a very thorough care to historical evidence, or from a very special application of the well-known British sense of humour.
Didn't go for the idea.
Not really.
Unless he's covering up as well.
As well? Are you starting to see rippers under every bed?
I'm not seeing anything. That's the problem. I get the feeling I'm not supposed to be seeing anything.
Like the writing on the wall?
Look, 5 murders, 8 inspectors, hundreds of coppers bumping into each other. Statements, inquest files, throw away the rubbish, and what are we left with? A few lines on a blackboard. It's just not enough.
Want to go on looking?
It's not in there. Not what we want.
Where is it? We've looked everywhere. Home Office, Scotland Yard, the files, even the closed ones. Nothing.
Well, that is just the point. There should be something. I mean, there isn't one single statement in any one of those files from a single copper saying, look, we thought it might have been so-and-so, but we can't prove it.
I never even got that far.
It's a matter of police work. Look. Eyewitnesses' descriptions. It's what we went for straight away. Any good cop does. We took it the way they had to then. One murder at a time and one question. Who saw Jack the Ripper? Mrs. Long did. She saw him talking to Annie Chapman.
Couldn't see the man's face except to notice he was dark. He had a brown deerstalker hat, and I think he had a dark coat on.
P.C. Smith.
I should say he was about 28 years of age. He was of a respectable appearance, but I could not say what he was.
The commercial traveller, Levond, gave Commissioner Smith a description of the man he'd seen talking to Eddowes.
Young, about the middle height, with a small fair moustache, dressed in something like Navy serge and with a deerstalker's cap.
3 descriptions, and they'd all fit half the men in London.
Right. But then we have Mary Jane Kelly, and they do get a description.
He was about 5 feet 8 inches, 34 or 35 years old. He had a dark complexion and a dark moustache turned up at the ends. He was wearing a long, dark coat, trimmed with astrakhan, a white collar, and a black necktie. There was a horseshoe pin fixed in it. He had a pair of dark spats with light buttons over button boots. And there was a massive gold chain on his waistcoat. His watch chain had a big seal with a red stone hanging from it. He had dark eyes and bushy eyebrows. He had no side whiskers and his chin was clean shaven.
Now that is a very good description of somebody.
If you believe him.
It doesn't matter whether we believe him. Inspector Aberline believed him. There's even a note in the Scotland Yard file saying so.
So?
So, after 5 murders, 5 very nasty murders which are getting nastier, they finally get a good description. But there's nothing in the file to show that anybody went looking for the toff that Hutchinson saw that night. I mean, if it had been us, we would have turned London upside down looking for somebody fitting that description.
We might have. Aberline didn't.
Aberline was a good copper.
He was a good copper in 1888.
Well, coppers are coppers and murder's murder in 1888 or 1988.
We're talking about Whitechapel in 1888. Listen to George Bernard Shaw. Letter to the Star. The riots in 1886 brought in £78,000 and a people's palace. It remains to be seen how much these murders may prove worth to the East End in bread and circuses. Indeed, if the habits of duchesses only admitted of their being decoyed in Whitechapel backyards, a single experiment in slaughterhouse anatomy on an aristocratic victim might fetch in a round $500,000 and save the necessity of sacrificing 5 women of the people.
Jack the Ripper is a social reformer. Yeah, well, it's as good as a lot of the other theories we've come against.
My point is that even to a social reformer like Shaw, the Ripper victims were just 5 women of the people. Useful as propaganda, yes, but not important as individuals. And he didn't particularly care who killed them.
Well, I care. I started this inquiry to find out, and I've had the feeling all along that somebody's been trying to stop me.
Because Jack the Ripper was a toff?
I don't know, but I do know a cover-up when I see one. The inquest on Mary Jane Kelly stopped before they'd even established time of death. No names of suspects on the files, no serious names anyway. And so lo and behold, 6 years later, along comes Sir Melville Macnaughton, and he's got 3 names. Puts them in a file for people like you and me to find. Only these names aren't mentioned anywhere in the entire case.
I agree. That is odd.
Odd? I think it's extraordinary. 3 names, and what names? I mean, 2 Russians no one's ever heard of, and then, hey presto, suspect number 3, M.J. Druitt.
He was sexually insane. And from private information, I have little doubt that his own family believed him to have been the murderer.
And what's the important thing about Druitt?
That his family suspected him?
No. That Sir Melville Macnaughton knew that he was dead.
And couldn't tell no tales.
And would stop nosy Parkers like you and me looking any further.
I don't know. I've never found it easy to believe in conspiracies.
I'm not going to try and persuade you.
You couldn't. Because I'll tell you what I think. I think they never got near him then, and I think we're not going to get anywhere near him now. All we know about him is that he was left-handed, possessed anatomical knowledge, was of average height, and wore a deerstalker. That's all we know, and that's all we're ever likely to know.
I think they did get near him then. I think they, whoever they were, knew precisely who Jack the Ripper was, and they made damn sure nobody could find out.
You think? Where's your evidence?
Number 12, Buckingham Gate, Southwest 1.
Eh?
I said, number 12, Buckingham Gate, Southwest 1.
I know that address.
Yeah. The offices of the Director of Public Prosecutions in their Cleveland Street Duke of Clarence scandal file.
Didn't even know there was one. A file, I mean.
Oh, there is. I asked about it. I wasn't following your line. I was interested in Abilene. And the DPP's office assured me that there were no names mentioned in it that were connected with the East End.
How do they know what names are or aren't connected with the East End?
Oddly enough, that's what I asked, too. So after a bit of arm twisting, they let me see it. I wasn't following up your line. All I wanted to see was if there was a name in it that I knew in connection with Jack the Ripper.
And it's there? Connection with Cleveland Street and Jack the Ripper?
I don't know.
But I thought you said...
I said they let me see a file. 3 files. But before I saw them, somebody had been through them and several documents had been removed.
Removed? Not missing? And some of the papers were missing from the Home Office files.
I said removed, and I mean removed.
How do you know?
Because an official there told me. When I was leaving, I said, there are no names mentioned in these that are of any interest to me. And he said, you should see some of the names in the papers we haven't let you see.
Names?
Names.
You might be able to make me believe in conspiracies after all.
I'm still not going to try. I haven't any evidence. But it's quite a thought, isn't it? Here we've been beating our brains out for months, trying to find out who was Jack the Ripper. People have been trying for 80 years. And the Director of Public Prosecutions may be sitting on a file, knowing the answer all along. Only he isn't telling.